Hey, what's going on, guys? Kalamazi here, and today I want to talk to you all a bit about Destruction in Mythic Plus. Now, I know we hit on it a week, probably 2 weeks ago, give or take, talking about Destro Rising and Plus and all that. But we have the first two dungeons from MDI time trials, albeit 24s and things like that. But we are seeing a lot of Destro locks, a lot more Destro than Demonology, and no Affliction, unsurprisingly. But a lot of Destro, more than I thought we'd even see, sort of. The two dungeons are a little Destro-ish either way, but new builds also emerging. Some Crashing Chaos builds, some Channel Demon Fire, Raging Demon Fire builds. So today, I want to look at it all. I guess like break down the builds, look at it in combat a little bit, and tell you, I guess, my general thoughts on it and stuff and how I feel. CDF, I know is a polarizing term, Channel Demon Fire, for those that aren't familiar. We're going to look at it and go from there. Hey, you know, if you like it, great. If you don't, it is what it is. But either way, if you want any week orders or add-ons, links to Twitch and Discord down below are all for free for you guys. And yeah, let's jump into it. All right, so getting into the build for Destruction Warlock that we're talking about, what we're talking about today for Mythic Plus, MDI, all that stuff, and just in general. I've been playing this build when I've been playing Destruction Plus the past few weeks. It is Cataclysm based, no Inferno. Having the ability to put up multiple immolates quickly, giving you more rift refunds, more final damage, all that's been pretty strong. I will say things have shifted a bit over the past few days, I guess weeks in general. I've seen a lot of builds playing no points in Diabolic, no points in Overwhelming, and putting some points in Crashing Chaos like this to give you a stronger Infernal, stronger 3-minute cooldown. Crashing Chaos obviously empowering your Chaos Bolts or your Rain of Fires, so a bit more single target, a bit more AoE depending on what you're doing, based on cooldowns and all that. Planning around your Infernal pulls, obviously strong, looking at how it was even in S1, S2, and back in Shadowlands, having Infernal. Pulling around the Crashing Chaos or Rain of Chaos or whatever it was, having that strong empowered cooldown for those large pulls, unsurprisingly, very strong in coordinated settings. Outside of that, still playing 2 points in Chaosbringer, playing Dimensional Rift for your tier bonus, and you're playing 2-piece Old Sepulchre, 2-piece, 4-piece Ritual, and Avatar Purple Infernals for, you know, damage, shard generation, the stuns it brings, also pretty relevant. And I have also seen builds playing, like, no points in Embers, Overwhelming, and 2 points in Burn to Ashes, which seems a bit odd to me because a point in Embers is actually better from what I've seen in Sims than 2 points in Burn to Ashes. I feel like while you can play this build, I feel like this build here being like number 1, this build here being number 2 is likely better than the build playing full-on Burn to Ashes and everything else. Even like with these builds here or this build here, Destro single target is not that bad. It's not nowhere near as awkward as Affliction is playing, you know, Doom Blossom and things like that, right? Now, the third build that I've seen here, Shelly was playing a few days ago on stream, came by my stream, talked about it a little bit here as well, and somebody brought it up in chat, and they were also like, why don't, or they said, Shelly was playing on a stream, a couple of days beforehand, they were like, why don't we play CDF with RDF, Channel Demon Fire with Raging Demon Fire, Mythic Plus to maintain those immolates permanently in settings where these packs live for a long time. You can chain immolate forever because CDF, if you think back to Aberrus and things, normal CDF, it was buffed, I believe, before Aberrus dropped. That buff is still there, right? So there's still a bit of damage buff there, but Raging extends the duration of all your immolates for each bolt or whatever that hits the target, right? So it basically gives you permanent immolate. Now, when we were playing a build like this, for example, let's say we're playing this in Aberrus, right? We weren't playing Cataclysm. We were playing Inferno. But Cata was also buffed. Rain of Fire was also buffed a couple weeks ago, or I guess a month ago, whenever the patch dropped, something like that, for 10-2, right? So you've got the buff Cata effect. You've got Cata applying multiple immolates. More immolates means more rift refunds, which feeds into your 2-piece, your 4-piece. And CDF with RDF also gives you that basically permanent immolate in the majority of settings, not having to go back through and tab target immolates in, you know, these high pull count settings where packs are living for a long time. Now, I think when it comes to, I haven't played this build yet. We're gonna look at it in a minute here in combat. I have a feeling that when it comes to like pugging 20, 21 keys and stuff, this build's probably fine. But if packs are dying too fast, where the extension relevancy isn't that big of a deal, probably not as relevant. I could see it like, I think in general, like when it comes to pugging keys and stuff, outside of like Everbloom, maybe like some Eurozon's keys and like Throne possibly, maybe like Darkheart certain keys here and there. I think Demo's probably still a little better. But when it comes to these MDI settings, where you're making these large coordinated pulls, multiple packs pulled together, coordinated setting, having Infernal for it, knowing I'm going to pull this pack with this pack at this point, and having CDs assigned, Destro, once again, is cranking an insane amount of damage. Now, I've taken the liberty of pulling up Raider.io. The time trials here for the MDI are starting. There's 2 dungeons, Mirazon's Rise and Everbloom, both decent Destro dungeons. Both pretty good, depending how you look at it. And I would say surprisingly, but also unsurprisingly, there's a Warlock in basically every single comp. Mage, Warlock, Aug, or Shadow Priest, some Rets in here, give or take. I believe there's some demos here as well. Maybe Splat was saying he's playing Destro recently. I think there's some demos in certain spots. I saw one yesterday. It might have been pushed out for even more Destro. Maybe when it's down here in Bloom, possibly. There is a... that is still Destro. It's Cue Ball. Destro. Any demos here? Well, you know, I mean, it's Everbloom, right? When you're making those massive, just insane pulls and having the cooldowns for that, and having Warlock just mass Rain of Fire, Cataclysm, Rift spam, funnel damage as well, it makes sense, right? So it's sort of a disconnect just not seeing as much Destro when it comes to like retail playing keys comparatively to MDI. But keep in mind, once again, it's actually 23 keys, not even 24s, right? They're pretty low for MDI, but it is time trials. Having that mass AoE profile, unsurprisingly, is being used in a lot of settings. Whether you're getting good cleave, it's more single target based, or funnel damage, like a Mirazon's Rise at times. Also having good AoE on certain pulls, or Everbloom, just being basically permanent mass AoE wherever you go. And also certain bosses having good cleave in those dungeons as well, right? So I'm surprised, but also not surprised. But I did expect to see a bit more demo mixed in here, I will be honest. But with that being said, more dungeons coming as well. I believe for time trials and all that stuff, that MDI will come around. We'll see where it goes. But let's take a look at the different builds in combat here briefly and try and compare and contrast damage between them, playing CDF, RDF, and not. All right, so starting off here, we are playing the Cataclysm build with CDF, RDF, 2 points of Crashing Chaos, Infernal, Rifts, Chaos Bringer, all this stuff here. Yada. Now, when it comes to playing Rift, we're going to have permanent immolates basically via Cataclysm and CDF, RDF. I will say that when it comes to like Mythic Plus and things, you can pop all your Rifts on a Prio mob. You can pop them, you know, on different mobs here and there. You should, as long as RNG is on your side, get a good bit of refunds with permanent immolates, as long as the pack is living long enough in those higher settings, whether it's fortified or higher tyrannical keys or whatever, what have you. There's 5 dummies here. We're going to hit all 5. I'm not really going to like hard prio focus one, but keep in mind, once again, funneling multiple Rifts into one target does give you that strong funnel damage profile. Also expanding a bunch of AoE elements in Rain of Fire and Kata and permanent immolate extensions makes things pretty strong. So I'm just gonna open up here, gonna Kata, Infernal, Potion, whatever. I'll pop my Trinket, pop a Rift, launch a Rain of Fire. I'll CDF to extend here, why not? Rain of Fire, open some Rifts, Rift, put up a Havoc, why not? Some conflict rates out. I already got 1 Rift refund there, pop that. Conflict again, cast some Rain of Fires. I have to watch my CDF here. I haven't played with this ability in ages, it feels like. Speaking of that, we can CDF right here, extend again all our immolates. Now, they're not going to be permanent in a sense, like they will expire eventually if you miss a CDF, but another refund there, Rift as well. I have Cataclysm off cooldown literally right now. Throw down a Kata. Bam, there you go. We have CDF coming up in 2 seconds, right about now. Just pop it now. A 3rd Rift refund there. Rift again. Rain of Fire again. Our Havoc back up. Go into this, cast some Incinerate, Spill Shards, another Rift there. So we actually got 4 Rifts, 5 Rifts. We got 5 Rift refunds there. One was a natural reset, but it's pretty wild. I didn't even pop my Baloros here. I'm sustaining 500,000 DPS roughly, a 6th Rift there over the course of a minute. You know, having these permanent immolates, unsurprisingly, feels pretty good. I can Kata again right here if I want. Catch the full Pandemic on those immolates there. Once again, Rift again, conflict a little bit, throw Rain of Fire down, CDF, extend all my immolates, Havoc, conflict rate, Rain of Fire, again spamming everything else here. They didn't even pop Baloros here, and we're still sitting at 500,000 sustained DPS. Another Rift refund here, pop that, more Shards, more Rain of Fires, pop my CDF, extend again here, conflict rate, another Rift, that's actually a natty reset Rift, whatever, no big deal. We can Kata again here if we want. I'll give it a second or two. One more Rain of Fire. And Kata about here. Late for the road. Rain of Fire. Havoc up. All conflict rate. Cast over Rain of Fire. So if I actually CDF, you're going to be live it because why not? Who cares? Doesn't matter. Let's be real. Toss in another Rain of Fire. I'm going to stop here. We'll look at the breakdown overall. But I can tell you right now, I haven't played this build till literally right now. Not having to go back through and go like, oh, cool. You know, immolates fell mid-pack. Immolate. It feels so much better. Holy cow. So, raw breakdown here. Let me actually screenshot this quickly. 28% basically to Rain of Fire, 14 to Immolate, a bit more because ticking now, still I reapplied a few. Blasphemy, CDF sitting at about 7.2%, Rifts being 5.9, 5.8, about 11% here, about 15%, and the last rift was here, about 17, 18% of my damage was based on rifts and sustained 5-target cleave, right? Pretty strong. It feels good to play, but let's take a look at it in the same scenario, potions, all that, not playing CDF, not playing RDF, playing the improved immolate build with everything else, and, well, see where that stacks up. All right, so we swap builds here. We're not playing CDF or RDF anymore. We're playing Kata. The 3 points that basically went into close potential and double improved. Sorry, it should be in Scalding Flames here, not improved immolate. Good catch. I caught that. We're okay. I guess theoretically you could play improved immolate, but either way, I mean like Scalding Flames, like everything, immolate damage increase, all that. Point being, I want to see the difference here, raw breakdown wise, like sustainability wise, all that compared to the previous build with CDF and RDF and all of that. Let me change this up a little bit here. Once again, these 2 points are in Crashing Chaos, and yeah, let's get into it. I'm going to say right now, the quality of life, refreshing 5 immolates is going to be a huge pain, but we will make it work. Open on a Kata, put my Infernal down. I'm going to pop a Rain of Fire, pop this, why not? Pop my Trinket, another Rift here, Rift, why not? And start spamming some Rain of Fires. We got 1 Rift refund there ready, which is nice. Some Rain of Fires coming in, more range, 2 Rifts come back. 1 rain here. At this point, though, gotta start catching the immolates. Immolate. I'll rift again here. Targeted the one in the back of the room by mistake. That's no big deal. Put some of these down. Last test as well. I also didn't pop Aloros. Standing at range here, doing the same. Gonna cast a Conflict Rate here. Rain of Fire. Pop my Rift. I'm gonna Kata here to refresh all these. No CDF to refresh. Feels pretty bad, but Rain of Fire here. Rain. Sitting at about 620k. We're sitting at about, I think it was like 480, give or take, at about like the, I think, 2-ish minute mark in the last test. So we'll see where we're at after this one. Catch immolates here again. Immo, and Immo. Rain of Fire. Conflict Rate. Praying for quality of life. It's coming around in 3 seconds here. I feel it. I already feel it. Got a lot of rifts back there out of nowhere, and I probably should watch that a little more, but there we go. I can pop some of these. I also Kata here. This is already back off cooldown. Pop a Rift again. There we go. That's the thing as well. When you have like multiple immolates rolling like at the same time, and they're applied by Kata, it's essentially applying it at the same time, right? When the Kata hits all at the same time. Even if they're staggered a bit by manual refreshes, there are some times where you just get like 1, 2, 3 rifts, like almost back to back, if not at the exact same time, if they're applied by a Cataclysm, right? So it's important to keep an eye on your rift stacks. At times you have 0 stacks, you look down, you're literally back at 3, right? Which is something, to say the least. We're sitting at about 455k here, roughly, give or take. It seems like it's a bit less than the last build. At the same time, we had less rift refunds. I had 6 last time, comparatively to, I think, 5 there. But, I mean, once again, RNG is RNG. But I'll say, as far as like quality of life is concerned, having to refresh these immolates manually feels terrible. But it always feels bad. We've been playing this with Inferno for a long time. At least having Kata around now, regardless of the build you're playing, gives you a little more quality of life. But factoring in that CDF RDF extension does feel, well, a little bit better as well. All right, and taking a look at the damage breakdown here from that test without CDF RDF, you're looking at 27% Rain of Fire, roughly 17.2 Immolate, Flame Rift, Shadow Tear, Unsable Tear, Chaos Tear, all being your rifts here. Now, I have the damage from the last test here as well. You can sort of compare side by side. You will see more Rain of Fire damage here. Well, a bit less, give or take, depending how long the pole went out of combat. More Immolate damage here, but for 2 reasons. Number 1, we are playing Scalding Flames here, so an immolate damage increase. Number 2, it's important to keep in mind that we're not factoring in Channel Demon Fire here into the most recent test without CDF RDF. So you're sort of like, in a sense, having to factor in a bit more damage into every other ability here because you're missing this, you know, damage event on its own. You traded CDF ability you hit, which counts as a different damage event, for just an immolate damage increase and a passive conflict rate reduction, like cooldown reduction in EP, right? So rifts comparatively this time around, it was like 9.6%, pretty big. Flame Rifts, I mean, RNG, you can see here, this test did almost twice the amount of damage from Flame Rift being your tier bonus compared to here being 3.42. RNG is RNG, pretty wild. So we'll say 10% roughly, 15%, 18, rounding down a couple times here and there, looking at about 21%, give or take, Rift damage, comparatively to the previous test with CDF RDF being 6, 12, 16, 19 roughly, 18 and a half. But once again, factoring in CDF not being here, everything else sort of makes sense. Now, when it comes to quality of life, like I said, obviously having this immolates, refresh permanently feels great. We also did indeed have more Rift refunds playing the CDF RDF build, call it RNG, call it what you will, comparatively to this build here, we had to manually refresh immolates and go from there. But at the same time, this build had 9.6% flame rift damage, literally basically double what this build had, almost double what this build had, for a slightly shorter duration. Both builds had potions, no files or anything else, just, you know, the raw going in, doing big damage. They both seem pretty close. They both seem pretty comparable. But you can certainly see, regardless whether you're in an Everbloom or whatever dungeon you're in playing Destro, in a setting where you can have 4 or 5 targets living for a long time, have those if you're playing CDF, have those basically permanent immolates rolling from Cataclysm active, and giving you like just those insane rift refunds, funneling this damage into a single target mob, while still having that insane AoE profile, putting havoc on it and cleaving everything else down here, and having like the insane rain damage, but still at times getting these rift refunds, allocating all these rifts into this mob here, rift refund there, right? You can see how it brings that mass AoE with Crushing Chaos, everything else, but also has that funnel if need be. So in a sense, I mean, not even in a sense, I mean, the damage profile with Kata, working with this current tier's bonus and the buffs they got recently, you can sort of see as to why Destro gained a lot of ground. And plus, and certainly in these higher coordinated settings, MDI, time trials, all that. A lot of locks and time trials, Destro, basically. Some demos, mostly Destro. We'll see where it goes, but not as crazy as Shadowlands S3, S4. But when you want mass AoE, Destro is, once again, looking pretty good. So thanks for watching, guys. That wraps it up, and hopefully it clarified on anything you might be curious about with the new build of Destro, or why it's doing well in the MDI time trials and all that, and well, I guess just all that. Now, I mean, these keys, from what I understand, I believe they're 24s in time trials, not incredibly high. They are AoE-based dungeons in a sense, and honestly, when you're, like I said, when you're in that coordinated setting, when you know we're making X large pole into Y large pole, like 1, 2, 3, these large mass poles, and you know you're going to have your Infernal or cooldowns, whatever there, and can pre-plan that all out, Destro brings a lot, whether you're playing Inferno or Kata, CDF, or, playing just Kata with, multiple immolates, to bring that big rift funnel damage as well. Having all those immolates rolling can give you a million rifts back, which means while you are mass AoEing, at the same time, you're popping rifts on these larger, higher health mobs, whether it's like some bolster mob or a mini boss, bringing a very unique damage profile. Sort of how it was, in a sense, a little bit sort of referencing maybe a tiny bit back to BFA with Rolling Havoc, that huge AoE funnel, also like, or I guess AoE cleave, also funneling those Havoc stacks, similar to having multiple dimensional rifts. We'll see where it goes. I don't know what MDI is starting, probably a few weeks from now with time trials firing up now, but either way, Destro looking very strong. Demo's still good, obviously, but I think Demo is probably the better spec still when it comes to like I think it is when it comes to like these better, when it comes to pugging, like, pugging keys, mid-tier, higher tier keys. Once again, in a coordinated setting with everything pre-planned, all that stuff, I wouldn't be surprised if Destro overtake things with Demo in the MDI. So, all that being said, like always, WeakOS add-ons, link to Twitch and Discord down below if you want them, all for free for you guys. At the same time, before we end the video, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons, like always, for all supporting on Patreon. Thank you guys a million times. I really appreciate it. If you're looking at supporting on Patreon, should be a link up here somewhere, as well as down below in the video description. Besides that, I mean, like, retail's sort of slow right now. I would venture to guess in the next month or half or so, we'll probably get some information on Alpha coming out for War Within. A month and a half, give or take, and then after that, probably S4, which it'll be cool, but at the same time, I think S4 this time around won't be as exciting as, Shadowlands, but we'll see where it goes. Either way, whenever War Within Alpha hits and we're in it, probably be playing that a whole lot, and fingers crossed on Warlock changes. So, yeah, well, we'll see where it goes. Like always, thanks for watching, guys. Like the video, hit the like and sub buttons below. Helps out a ton, and I'll catch you all again soon on stream. Peace.